The HMS Hood and HMS Prince of Wales engage SCP-4217 in the Battle of the Denmark Strait. Due to its psionic field and thermatologically reinforced armour, SCP-4217 sustains only minor damage. SCP-4217 converts significant portion of the Hood's crew into SCP-4217-1 instances.
See, I feel like that's the most dangerous thing, right? Like, it's able to just launch, you know, this chemical warfare weapon that just converts, you know, crew members of your own ships into hostile creatures that it controls and or becomes part of their crew or whatever, you know, like that's the real concern. Going on, everybody? John Matrix here. Hope you're having yourselves a wonderful day wherever you're at, whenever you're watching this. We're gonna be jumping into the SCP universe with a video from Mr. Illustrated. We haven't checked out some of his content in a while. This was a requested video by a few people in the community. We're gonna be checking out SCP-4217 Contain the Bismarck by Mr. Illustrated. Links will be down below in the description, as always, to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to Mr. Illustrated's channel. So please do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video and if you enjoy his content, go over to his channel, be sure to give it a like, hit that sub button on his channel. If you enjoy his content, be sure to check out his Patreon, check out his YouTube membership stuff, any kind of sponsorship stuff he might be going on, if you want to take your support for his channel to the next level. If you'd like to do the same for my channel, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer, so you can check those out if any of that would have any interest for you. I also have playlists for other series that I do reactions for. We've got the SCP Foundation, Warhammer 40k, Warhammer Fantasy, as well as the Magnus Archives and Lord of the Rings, Dark Souls, etc. So if any of that has any interest for you, there's playlists for all of that you can go and check out. With all those shameless plugs done, let's jump into the video here. Again, this is SCP-4217 Contain the Bismarck by Mr. Illustrated. Let's do it. Aggressive mutagenic thaumatology mind altering. Okay, and it's a Keter.
The following data release has been authorized by the following council members and administration staff.
SCP-682. Okay, interesting. Okay, whatever. O5 council members, codename Steamy, blah, blah, blah. What? Okay. I wonder if those are like supposed to be like Patreon things of his or something. Anyway.
SCPS Savior, Captain's Log, Event 4217, 22nd of January 2020. Captain deceased in lieu, Executive Officer promoted to Commanding Officer. Damage reports. The SCPS Savior afloat, minor damage to the bridge and starboard freeboard. Captain deceased, deaths 6. SCPS Sword afloat, moderate damage to the bow, deaths 15.
Jeez.
SCPS Shield, ship sunk. Catastrophic damage to the stern, captain deceased, deaths 41. Event report at 13:47 local time, SCP-4217 was detected on sonar, ascending from its last known position. SCP-4217 broke surface to the rear of the SCPS shield and engaged, causing major damage to the stern. The SCPS Sword engaged SCP-4217 while the Savior moved within range. SCP-4217 continued to engage the shield while also engaging the Sword and Savior.
Damn.
At 13:55 local time, SCP-4217 was successfully suppressed, leading to the cessation of the occurrence. However, the SCPS shield sustained catastrophic damage and sunk at 14:01 local time. Of the ship's 195 crew, 154 were saved. At this time, the Sword and Savior are awaiting relief from the SCPS Shadow, Spirit, and Striker.
So I'm assuming that these are ships, obviously controlled by the Foundation, and they have their own naval fleet. Interesting. Actually, I hadn't really thought about that, right? Like, I thought it might have been a situation where in certain things like this with the Navy, they might have to coordinate with, whatever government's Navy and or the GOC for some of this stuff. But I guess it would also make sense that they would have some of their own naval vessels, especially with some of the major SCPs that are out in the ocean, etc.
N-log, commanding officer.
Description: SCP-4217 refers to both the Bismarck, henceforth 4217A, an anomalous German battleship sunk on the 27th of May 1941, and the large cephalopod organism that is fused to the inside of its hull, henceforth 4217B. SCP-4217B possesses a pair of octopoid eyes which protrude from the base of SCP-4217A's superstructure, and 12 100 to 200 meter long muscular hydrostats that extend from an opening in the stern.
Interesting.
Aside from the presence of 4217B, 4217A shows no signs of damage sustained from battle or subsequent decades submerged underwater. SCP-4217B operates 4217A systems. This includes its full armament of 8 main guns, 44 secondary guns, and 12 anti-aircraft guns. SCP-4217B also can operate 4217A's propellers to reach speeds approaching 40 knots, but only while surfaced.
Only while surfaced, so that means, and from what they said earlier, it seems like the ship is also able to submerge itself. So it's a submersible battleship. It still functions, I guess, underwater as well as completely surfaced. That's also quite interesting.
While submerged, SCP-4217 achieves locomotion via ejection of water from 4217B's body cavity, with an average speed of approximately 30 knots. SCP-4217 typically remains submerged at a depth of 500 to 1100 meters, navigating its territory. However, SCP-4217 will periodically surface and enter a hostile state.
Can you imagine that, right? Like if you just have a sailboat or something like that and you're just out on the ocean and you see like this giant like shadow underwater of what looks like a ship, and then it just appears out of the water and starts, blasting you. How crazy would that be?
During this period, SCP-4217 will seek and attack non-threatening targets, such as civilian cargo ships. If sufficiently damaged, it will revert to a passive state. Otherwise, it reverts after a median 9 hours.
So that's interesting. I wonder if that's some kind of programming that's left over in it from World War II, right? Somehow.
Special Containment Procedures. Foundation naval forces are to patrol SCP-4217's territory with 3 or more battleships under the guise of the British Royal Navy. During a hostile state, naval forces are to engage SCP-4217 until it reverts to a passive state. Survivors from civilian vessels attacked by SCP-4217 are to be recovered and processed in accordance with maritime disinformation protocols. Addendum 1. History. The SCP-4217 designation previously referred only to the Bismarck itself, which was believed to have been neutralized in 1941. A previous version of this document can be found here. Description: SCP-4217 is the Bismarck, a battleship designed and built for use by the German Kriegsmarine. Several pieces of anomalous technology were incorporated into the ship's design. Thermatological symbols etched into the outer hull at key locations to reinforce SCP-4217's belt armor. These symbols are not visible at most times, but while active, will luminesce in proportion to the amount of damage being mitigated.
So that's interesting, right? And I mean, from what I understand, I guess in certain SCP canons, World War II is considered one of the occult wars that's happened in various canons or SCP history. So I wonder what else that means, right? Like, I don't know if there's enough documentation or anything that's been talked about with the occult wars? If there has, I would love to know and learn more. From what I understand, I guess it's just something that's referenced in various SCPs. And I know like the first occult war was like the ancient war that happened between the Davites and the Sarkics and the Mechanites, etc. Um, but it makes me wonder, like, what factions were involved in this that were working with the Germans to make this battleship. You know what I mean? Kind of a thing. Yeah. I would love if someone were to ever like actually do like what like a red tape kind of series getting into World War II from like the underside of it with the occult wars and how the Foundation and all the various factions were involved during World War II in the different battles and the occult things and various SCPs that could have been involved. I think all that would be a very fascinating story. But anyway,
A weak psionic field with a radius exceeding 20 kilometers. The field appears to cause individuals with hostile intent towards SCP-4217 to experience confusion regarding the ship's identity, increasing the likelihood of friendly fire when affected individuals mistake Allied vessels for SCP-4217. Potential self-repair capabilities. Damage sustained during the Battle of the Denmark Strait was
interesting.
observed in subsequent engagements to have partially repaired in a manner visually resembling the healing of wounds in organic tissue.
Huh. So I wonder if that means the ship actually might have like the ship itself when it was built, maybe it was built from some kind of SCP anomaly. And so it has like it's like a hybrid semi-organic vessel, right? That would be interesting.
Artillery shells containing an unknown gas with mutagenic properties. Organisms exposed to the compound will undergo rapid mutations.
Interesting.
Observed mutations include growth or loss of limbs and sensory organs, development of fur, feathers and/or scales, and in one unverified report, multiple victims being fused together into a single entity. A hypothesized anomalous power supply of an unknown, possibly biological nature. During interrogation, surviving crew members stated that SCP-4217 required a unique type of fuel. Chemical analysis found the fuel to consist primarily of organic nutrients. None of the captive crew members reported having seen the interior of the engine room, although 2 claimed to have heard a sound resembling a heartbeat while in that region of the ship.
Interesting.
This list is based on limited observations of SCP-4217 in combat and interrogations of the few surviving crew members, and is thus not considered exhaustive. Efforts are ongoing to acquire the original design documentation. As of the 27th of May 1941, SCP-4217 is believed to be located at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, approximately 500 to 600 kilometers off the coast of France. The Foundation currently lacks the technology to reach the wreck and verify its current condition.
Do they? Right? There's so many SCP stories out there with them having all kinds of crazy technology, and not to mention all kinds of, MTF teams out there that can do all kinds of crazy stuff. It's hard for me to believe that the Foundation doesn't have the technology to go in some kind of submersibles in some kind of way to check out if the crash or the wreckage of this ship is actually where it's supposed to be. I feel like that's a cover of some sort.
SCP-4217 continuing to exhibit anomalous properties has been deemed low in light of the damage inflicted upon it prior to its sinking. Special Containment Procedures. Information regarding SCP-4217's anomalous properties is to be suppressed according to standard protocols. The British Royal Navy has agreed to aid the Foundation in this effort. Foundation agents embedded in the German military will attempt to gain access to information regarding the Tirpitz in order to determine if it is a second instance of SCP-4217. Upon development of the necessary submersible technology, a survey is to be conducted of SCP-4217's wreckage in order to verify its neutralization. Timeline. Markus Straub, a Foundation agent working undercover in Germany, intercepts a shipment of esoteric materials being transported to the city of Hamburg for use in the construction of a battleship. Several materials are recognized as important components of thermatological constructs. Agent Straub is ordered to observe the construction. Upon completion of the hull, this ship is christened the Bismarck and launched for fitting out work.
Wouldn't you think, if you got a Foundation spy in there, right, and he's reporting on these things, I would feel like at some point you would want to maybe sabotage the creation of this, because you literally have the Nazi war party creating some kind of anomalous battleship. And who knows what that could mean, what its capabilities are.
A large, heavily guarded shipment marked with the insignia of the Obscura Corps is delivered to the Bismarck. Agent Straub.
Obscura Corps. I assume that's like one of the occult factions of the German war machine back during World War II.
Reports hearing a sound similar to a heartbeat originating from the shipment, but is unable to get close enough to make further observations. Bismarck leaves Hamburg to begin sea trials. During what appears to be a high-speed run,
that's interesting.
The Bismarck releases a massive electrical discharge and shuts down. For several seconds following this, a series of glowing symbols are visible along the hull, but the distance is too great for Agent Straub to identify them. Power is restored within an hour. SCP designation assigned, the O5 Council authorises neutralization, and all agents stationed within Germany are ordered to rendezvous and destroy SCP-4217 before it can be completed.
Well, that seems to not have happened.
Agents report readiness to launch the mission. No further contact. Team is declared missing in action and the mission is deemed a failure. Subsequent attempts are hindered by the ongoing war. Following a 7-4-2 vote, the O5 Council concludes that the potential threat posed by SCP-4217 warrants informing the British government. SCP-4217 is spotted by Swedish reconnaissance aircraft. This information is leaked to the British, who contact the Foundation. The Royal Navy dispatches a fleet led by the HMS Hood and the HMS Prince of Wales to intercept SCP-4217. Foundation representatives meet with the British Admiralty Board to coordinate on neutralizing SCP-4217.
Now, I would be curious what kind of precautions they would take in this situation, right? Like, the Foundation has admitted to the British government that the Germans have created some kind of potential super battleship, right? And has unknown, unnatural capabilities. What's the Foundation going to bring to the table to help them, right? There's got to be some kind of like anomalous things that they would want to use to try to protect their ships from being destroyed and or to be used as countermeasures against, the Bismarck.
Foundation agents are placed on board select ships of the home fleet as advisors. The HMS Hood and HMS Prince of Wales engage SCP-4217 in the Battle of the Denmark Strait. Due to its psionic field and thermatologically reinforced armour, SCP-4217 sustains only minor damage. SCP-4217 converts significant portion of the Hood's crew into SCP-4217-1 instances.
See, I feel like that's the most dangerous thing, right? Like, it's able to just launch, this chemical warfare weapon that just converts, crew members of your own ships into hostile creatures that it controls and or becomes part of their crew or whatever, like, that's the real concern.
Which then overwhelm the bridge crew. The Hood is then sunk by enemy fire, while the Prince of Wales retreats. It is discovered that SCP-4217 is leaking a substance then thought to be oil, and the remaining fleet uses the trail to follow SCP-4217. SCP-4217's anomalous defences impede attempted attacks by torpedo bombers. Observing Foundation agents identify the defences and relay this information to Site-41. Use of SCP is proposed as a countermeasure to the psionic field, and preparations are made to transport it. Site-41 thermatology experts design plans to modify torpedoes that will overload SCP-4217's
This is all pretty
armor
interesting.
reinforcement. SCP-4217 temporarily breaks radar contact, but is eventually located by British intelligence. Events during this period do not deviate from historical record. Foundation supply ships arrive with requested countermeasures. SCP nullifies the psionic field. Modified torpedoes overload the reinforcement symbols, and subsequent thermatological discharge causes moderate hull damage. SCP-4217 is noted to begin moving erratically.
Right.
British warships led by the HMS Ark Royal surround SCP-4217 and begin firing upon it.
Like, I've always been fascinated by, World War II history, era stuff, and just the battles and strategies and whatnot that took place. And so, like, if you were to take like an SCP series and do stuff like this and integrate it into the history of World War II as like an alternate history of events where we get to hear like the underlying tales and things that, like, there's the truth that the public knows, and then there's the real history that is kept secret by the Foundation and various factions that were involved. And so we hear like retelling of battles and critical events from the point of view of these various factions and what SCP anomalies and things could have been evolved, and these various battles to fight and counteract things. Like, I think that would honestly be a very intriguing and interesting SCP series.
SCP-4217 is now too damaged to return fire, but remains afloat. British bombardment continues.
Like, I mean, just the not the Manhattan Project, but the Philadelphia experiment, right? That alone could have an SCP story done about it, where they're trying to, no one really knows exactly, I think, what it was, but, could have been teleportation, time manipulation, various things like that. That obviously could have SCP, implications around that. I don't know if there even may have been any kind of, right, the Summerfield, right, exactly. There's all kinds of stuff around that, like that. And not to mention, the Nazis were very much, especially towards the end of the war, were seeking any kind of upper hand they could, and were very much looking into occult means to, see if it could give them an edge in battle in some kind of way, So just that alone could be integrated into, various SCP tales that would be fascinating.
SCP-4217's store of mutagenic ammunition is struck, majority of crew is exposed and become SCP-4217-1 instances. The remaining crew abandon ship. SCP-4217 starts to sink, British ships cease fire and begin rescue efforts. SCP-4217 is completely submerged. Foundation teams recover SCP-4217-1 remains. Amnestics were administered to all British crew below the rank of Admiral before being allowed to disembark.
That's a lot of people.
121 members of SCP-4217's crew were successfully rescued. Following interrogations, 109 were anesthetized and transferred to British custody, while the 12 remaining were sent to Site-23 for further investigation. The remains of
I've never written anything before, but if I, were a writer, that'd be something that I would probably want to work on, right? Like some kind of, I would try to find out what the occult war number or whatever was for what World War II was supposed to be, and then try to do as much historical research as possible on things and try to integrate what, anomalies and things could have been used. It would also, like, think about this too. It would also be a very interesting Lord Blackwood tale. They could have some things happening from the point of view of Lord Blackwood and some of his experiences during World War II. if he was still around, I mean, you got to assume he was still around at that point, right? If the Foundation's able to talk to him in present time.
74 SCP-4217-1 instances were recovered and sent to Site-23 for study. An estimated minimum 1,500 members of SCP-4217's original crew remain unaccounted for.
Interesting. To be continued in part 2. Okay, so there's a second part we're going to have to check out in this. All right, well, there we go. There we go. That was SCP-4217, Contain the Bismarck by Mr. Illustrated. So yeah, we'll have to check out part 2 next time on Dragon Ball Z. Like I said, you know, I've kind of given my thoughts pretty much through this. And like I said, you know, a more in-depth, length and detailed series of World War II, kind of almost like an alternate history series, like how the Kaiserreich is out there for World War I. That's supposed to be more of an alternate, like, factual history retelling of events that happened during World War I, and what led up to it and during it and after it. It would be interesting to see an alternate history, kind of, not necessarily alternate history, but at least like again, like I said, there's the history that is known to the public, and then there's the real history that is kept under wraps by the Foundation and other factions that were involved, and we get to hear that history through the various points of views of the different factions that may be involved, and what they did and how they implemented various things during different battles throughout the history of World War II, and what anomalies could have been involved, anomalies that could have been created by different factions. I mean, like, right, like Marshall, Carter, and Dark during that time period, you know, anomalous arms dealers, man, you know, dealing with all kinds of stuff in the black market. And I would assume, again, you know, during the later days in the war when Germany got desperate, you know, they'd be willing to do all kinds of wheeling and dealing, you know, with Marshall, Carter, and Dark, and maybe even Wondertainment and some of these other obscure factions that could be creating all kinds of strange anomalous weapons and tools, and, you know, et cetera, you know, as well as, you know, the US government and other various factions working on, again, you know, like the Manhattan Project and the Philadelphia Experiment and all these other kinds of things. And each side was working on super soldiers and, you know, et cetera. So, I mean, I just think it would be something that would be extremely fascinating to be done. And if I was actually a good writer, it'd be something, and if I had the time to do it, it'd be something that I would definitely kind of work on and try to do as much research as I could and see where I can integrate various SCP factions and stories and anomalies that would make sense. So, throwing that out there, if anyone, you know, would have an itch to kind of work on that, that would be awesome. But yeah, we'll have to check out part 2 next time. Again, this was SCP-4217, Contain the Bismarck by Mr. Illustrated. Links will be down below in the description, as always, to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and the Mr. Illustrated channel. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to go over there, give it a like. If you enjoy his content, be sure to hit that sub button on his channel. Check out his Patreon, check out his YouTube membership benefits and tiers that he has to offer, any kind of sponsorship stuff he's got going on, if you'd like to give him a little bit of extra support and love. If you'd like to do the same for my channel, there's a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I have to offer. You can check that out if you have any interest in any of that. Also do reactions to other universes. We've got the SCP Foundation here, obviously. The Magnus Archives I've been getting into recently, Warhammer 40k, Warhammer Fantasy, Lord of the Rings, Dark Souls, and we're, you know, constantly expanding and growing. So if any of that will have any interest for you, if you want to check any of that out, there's playlists for those on the channel. But regardless, thank you guys for hanging out and watching the video. If you are still watching here through the very end, I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, consider leaving a like and a sub if you enjoyed this video of mine with my commentary and reaction, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful evening.